This is David,
Hello.
and
Hi, Bart.
we are very excited to hear what he has to tell us. Please remember to ask questions in the app whenever you think of any, and vote, vote, vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, yeah, good to be here. I've talked about this with a lot of people a lot of times last year, this year, and I was asked to do a talk about it because we did a little experiment the last, let's say, 1.5 years. And Passcreator has always been a company where we've been working remotely, so we've never had that classic office culture. But at least in the last 6 or 7 years, we did have an office. And shortly before COVID or in 21, I don't remember when exactly it was, we were thinking, okay, we will hire more people. So we've been only 2 of us back then and thought, okay, it makes sense to just look for people in the Munich area where our office is. And so we rented a larger office space, which was the logical thing to do because more people, more space just makes sense. Now, what then happened was this. So we hired more people, but actually almost none of them were in the Munich area. So we had office space. So we now have a bunch of people in Germany. We have one colleague in Spain. We have recently got a couple of new colleagues in Iceland. So quite distributed. It's hard to, well, feel close to meet in reality. And then in end of 2023, I saw this. This is a German YouTuber that is Spiel und Zeug. It's all about smart home and all sorts of things. And he was talking about how he was using VR headsets to do internal meetings and was describing it in detail. So I was also researching, watching a lot of videos about it, talking about it with colleagues, and well, okay, this sounds interesting. So what's the next step? So what do you actually need to do it in order to test it? Obviously, you need a VR headset, and there's not just these, there's a bunch of other options. The price point is hugely different between Meta's products and Apple's products, so you can buy 10 of the cheaper ones compared to one of Apple's products. And they have different operating systems. They are still in silos, so you need to do some research before starting or buying something, because if one of your colleagues has one headset and the other one buys an Apple headset, because for whatever reason, you can't really use the same apps because they just don't coexist on apps like it is the case with Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, big blue button, or whatever you want to use. And then the next thing is, okay, I'm obviously wearing glasses, so what do you do about that? You can leave your glasses on, which for some headsets works, and it's kind of uncomfortable because I have a big head, so when I put on the headset over the glasses, it just creates that pressure on these bars on the side. When you take off the headset, you always throw your glasses on the bottom or on your desk or whatever. So there's another option, which is prescription lenses, which you just plug in the headset. I have mine here, so I can also show you. It's just tucked onto the actual displays. So that's great, but it's also some additional cost. So next thing that we came across is when we tested these things is comfort. And headsets are heavy. These VR headsets are unfortunately not at a place where you can just use them as regular glasses. They are too heavy to wear for a full day. And our experience is you can use them for maybe 2 or 3 hours, but more is just killing your head. You get a headache, your neck starts to hurt. So that's it's a great tool, but it's not perfect yet. There's also the default head straps that Meta is delivering is just some fabric, so it's quite front heavy, so you can buy custom head straps. So there's quite some getting used to. And in total, these headsets cost around 500, 550-ish euros in total with prescription lenses and the custom head strap, so it's still a fair price. And what we did, we actually reduced the office space, so that was 1 month of saving was basically the equivalent of buying headsets for a team of 8 people back then. And then you got 2 hours of battery life. So if you want to use them longer, you need a long USB-C cable because otherwise it just turns off. Next thing you need to come across is what apps are actually exist, because it's not, these things are, well, kind of built for business, but also with gaming in mind. So there's different apps for business purposes. The ones that we used in the last 1.5 years is Meta Horizon Workrooms, which is the default app from Meta. It's very simple, but it's also kind of limited sometimes, so you can see your screen in VR when you're immersed in these rooms, essentially. But you can do a lot of customization in Meta's app. Then there's Immersed, which is a third-party app, where you can have up to 5 screens, which is great. Because if you want to, when I develop, I at least need 1 giant screen. I have a physical curved screen and my MacBook next to it. But in VR, I can just have 3 giant screens and do whatever, the UI designs on one screen, email on another, and then the IDE in the middle, or then another Notes app somewhere else. So this is really gives you a flexibility that you don't have in real life, or if you want to have it, it gets quite expensive. On the other hand, Immersed is a bit hard to configure. So getting the screens right, you can just adjust them like this in size, and it just drives me crazy until I have the right setup. There's Microsoft Mesh, which is kind of a spin-off of Teams, which is also interesting because you can freely move around rooms, and if you move to another room, you can't hear the other people, but you're still kind of in the same world. Meet in VR is another option on Meta. And then if you want to spend the real big money with Apple Vision Pro, you only have FaceTime, essentially, which is an option. The avatars look great and more realistic, but unfortunately, you can't talk to anyone else that doesn't have an Apple product. This is what it looks like. I'm going to show you later on. So when you are in VR meetings, you are sitting across avatars. So it's like comic figures. It's not really how these people look like. We tried a lot to make them look like us, but in the end, you just need to get used to that. The virtual representation of you looks different. But what's actually more important than the looks of it is audio. So these headsets are really great in making sure that the sound is coming exactly from the point where someone is in VR. And that is what makes the impression of being in the same place. So it's almost as if it doesn't matter what you see, it's more about what you hear. And that is what makes it great for us. And that also is what works well. Spatial audio works really well. These avatars look weird. It also looks weird when your wife comes into the room and you have the headset on, or your partner, and so that is some getting used to. But it actually feels like if you would be at the same place, which is great for a distributed team because we can't just meet every day. So this is, for us, something that we like and kind of gotten used to. You can have a screen setup that you don't have in reality. And it's also possible that people can attend that don't have a VR headset. So you can just log in through a web browser, then you're basically floating in the room like a screen. And that kind of creates the impression when you are in VR, it actually feels like someone else is watching from outside the window, like that kind of feeling. So it's pretty interesting. And non-business use cases that I like personally is gaming. I tried it in the beginning, but it's not something that maybe I've grown out of that age. And then what I really like though is in winter, there's these beautiful helicopter rides over a beach or something that you can just watch for 5 minutes, and it's quite relaxing. So that's something that I use. But I actually, and I think most colleagues as well, are primarily using these things for meetings. What's not so great, I've touched on a couple of these things already. Weight is one issue still. So these headsets need to get lighter. Sometimes they do updates and just remove really great features. Meta had a great whiteboard feature where you could just take screenshots, pin them on a whiteboard, take notes, take screenshots of the whole whiteboard, put it to Confluence or whatever tool you're using, and out of a sudden they just removed that feature because they decided it's not necessary anymore, so we had to look for an alternative. So it's still in its early stages. It's not like whatever Microsoft Office 365 or any of these huge products that are used by millions every day. It can get quite warm. I'll show you in a second. Probably be a bit sweaty under the headset afterwards because it's already warm here. And some people struggle with motion sickness. That is also one thing that's commonly known, but it's less of an issue in meetings because it primarily happens when you move in reality and the movement in the headset is something else. So you are walking there, and in VR it looks like you're walking 100 meters. That virtual reality and reality doesn't match the movement. And if you have a headache, probably don't use it because it makes it worse. What we usually do is more use it in mornings and not so much in the evening when your head is already a bit tired. What we use it for, internal meetings, I already mentioned. What we also do is like co-working sessions is what we call them. So everybody's just working on his or her own thing and just in the same room, and then you start to talk like you would in a regular office. The usage in the last 1.5 years fluctuates. We use it less in summers because when it's warm, it's less comfortable. Sometimes you're just not in the mood, but especially in our developers meetings, we use them on a daily basis, basically. So for these kind of quick meetings for 20, 30 minutes maybe, that's what we use it very regularly for. So I would say it's definitely worth it. And we will continue using it. So it became a tool in our toolbox. So it's not as if it can replace your computer or your screens, but it's a nice addition, especially if you're working remotely and want to have a tool that makes you feel a little closer. We still meet in reality once or twice, maybe 3 times a year, but with the distances, it can become quite expensive and also sometimes hard to organize. So it doesn't replace these real in-person connections that are still very important to me as well. But it helps to feel closer. And now what I'd like to do is just show you quickly on the screen how this looks like and meet with a couple of colleagues. So what I'm just need to start the streaming that you can see what I can see. No, I need to switch the Wi-Fi quickly. So it's yeah. Now it should start. Yeah, I can see it. So it's okay. But they need to switch the computers. Yeah, so this is basically when you start using it. I can move the virtual whatever menu around, and what I'm going to do now is, so I can see you, but when I now open Horizon Workrooms, which is the meeting app that I'm that I've mentioned that we use most of the time. It sometimes takes a while. And then I need to prepare my workroom, which means telling the thing where my desk is. And then I'm by default in a fully immersed room now, because that's the standard setting. I can also switch back to this, which is the whatever, show my screen or not show it. And hang on. Okay, that's not good because now it's confused because of the real screen here. But now what I'm going to do is just enter a meeting room where you won't be able to hear them, but this is part of the Passcreator team. So good morning. And now we're in a virtual meeting at a lake where you can see the mountains and some water. It's nice and sunny. And if you look behind it, it's like that default room. What you can do here now is share a screen. If okay, I can't for whatever reason. But what you can do as well is, yeah, there, someone's sharing their screen, so you have that screen in front of you. And what you can then do as well is change the, where is it? Change the room layout. So if you want to do more of a presentation layout, you can switch to this. So we're now sitting next to each other and watching that screen. And if I want to do like being a presenter, I can go to this room or this chair. So it changes the room layout, and you have that giant screen. Yeah, and if they start to talk, I can hear exactly where the voice is coming from, which makes it feel, yeah, like we would be in the same place. So thanks, guys. Okay. Yeah, that's basically it, how we work in VR. If you got questions, feel free to ask.
Well, we do have some questions. Great talk. Applause for David, please.
I might have actually submitted a few of those.
Sorry?
I might have actually submitted a few of those questions.
Okay. Then go for it.
Oh, yeah, it's quite some. Well, have you noticed a change in the time you spent on meetings after implementing VR headsets in your team, considering the health limitations?
No, not really. If it becomes too long, we just switch to some other tool, basically. So the meeting length didn't really change, if that's the question, basically.
Seems like.
Yeah,
Marta?
I mean, if someone just says it's too heavy on the head or something, we just switch to Teams or whatever,
Yeah.
and use regular video calls, basically.
Okay. And then that's actually my question, because I was curious when you were talking about the whiteboard feature.
Yeah.
And I was wondering whether that was like the same awkward notion you had in the Walmart movie, where you had to grab like the wine from the shelf. Did you have to grab a pen, and how does it feel?
I was still on a train when Robert did his talk, so I didn't see what he
Okay.
shared yesterday. So I need to
It
rewatch
was
that.
terrible.
Yeah, no, it like the whiteboard was. You have physical controllers that you can flip around and then use as a pen.
Yeah.
And some of our colleagues did quite well. I couldn't get used to it, so I never used it to write things down. Mm-hmm. But that really worked quite well. So what I just showed, where you can switch seats, you could just decide to go to in front of the whiteboard and then start to write and whatever, change the size of screenshots that you pin to the whiteboard and stuff like that. So it was really great. So now you need to use other tools because unfortunately they removed it. They also removed a lot of options, so you could sit at the beach. Now you only have that what I just showed, which is still great, but after a year you might want to work somewhere else if you have these VR options anyway. So that's why sometimes it makes sense to just try out
And
a
us
couple
people
of
who
different apps.
still live in the Stone Age need to quit their job and move someplace else to do that.
Yeah, probably.
Are your team members allowed to use their VR headsets outside of work for gaming?
Yes.
That was my question.
Yes.
And I noticed when you were just saying goodbye, you waved,
Yeah.
and your coworkers waved back.
Yeah.
What kind of black magic is that? How does the VR headset know that you're waving? Or did you press a button that says I'm waving?
No. It actually has like these 3 black thingies. There's cameras in it that are used for hand tracking. So when I'm having it on my head, it just tracks my hand.
So
and
you
that way-
physically wave and your avatar
Yeah,
waves. That's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah. And you can also do like fist bumps and clapping and stuff in reality, and it replicates that in VR. It also is sometimes a bit weird because when you're sitting next to each other on a desk and then you want to do like Touch ID and you do this, then sometimes in VR it feels like if a colleague is coming too close, because in reality the avatar is moving towards you because they don't see where your notebook is, but on a desk it might be there. And then it's like, what are you doing?
Touchy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because they can't touch you.
No, they can't. But it's really good with
So it's very
creating the
immersive.
impression of really being there. Yeah.
What's the range of sight, like normal eyesight? If you wave here, does it still?
Well, it's maybe this.
Okay.
So yeah, and it differs. This is better than there's a 3S version, which is a bit cheaper, that has less of a field of view, and Vision Pro, you can basically have your hands on the lap and do these selection things. But on the other hand, well, price is an issue. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What about eyes? When they are starting to be tired, how long daily you use the VR set? What about resolution? Some questions.
Resolution is pretty good actually. And it's also great in making the part where you're looking at sharper than the edges. So you don't get the impression that if you're actually trying to view the edges without looking at it, you notice that it gets a bit blurry at the side. But it's pretty good. It's close to 4K resolution. What was the other question?
How long until your eyes get tired?
Yeah. Well, it differs a bit on how fit you are, if you slept well and stuff like that. Like, it's also the case when you're just working regularly, but for me it's probably 2 or 3 hours. Afterwards it gets a bit too much. When you have dry eyes, you might need to use eye drops because there's fans in the thing that they don't blow inside, but it makes the air dry inside the headset. So can make it a bit worse. So what I usually do if we have longer meetings, I use eye drops before I use the headset.
And I noticed you took your glasses off.
Yeah.
As someone who is almost legally blind myself, I'm
Yeah.
so nearsighted. How does the VR correct for your lenses?
There's prescription lenses, so that's little things that you can buy based on your. This is for my glasses, and then now it's just without it. And if I put them on, it's basically correcting your eyesight.
There's some limits to that. My glasses are so thick, they're like ashtrays. I don't think they would fit in there with my head.
There's a lot of room inside these headsets, so you can maybe use them.
But it would make them impossibly heavy.
and today the limit is about 3 minutes until you drop.
Has it improved the productivity of the meeting output? And did it have an impact of experience for VR workshops?
It depends on what you're working on. I would say for design reviews or something like that, it's pretty cool because you have just these huge screens, and that's what I like when we're whatever new UI designs and mock-ups and discussing about that. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't say it changed productivity per se, but it changed it's more a tool to feel closer with the remote team.
So it has an impact on culture.
Yes, I would say that.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's good. Can you annoy your colleagues?
Annoy?
Of course you would like that.
Yeah, sure. I'll find ways.
Talking about resolution, doesn't get a casted screen very small? Do you want to? I think there's some autocorrect issue.
I put this question on. I thought about like this when you're sitting in this presentation mode and you have your screen shared here in a distance about like as far as the end is away from me. Like, doesn't it get very, very small if you have the browser and maybe talking about like a box shadow of a button or whatever?
No, it's pretty. I mean, the size of the screen, you can see pretty much exactly what you see when the screen is in front of you. So it's pretty good at picking the right size. I mean, that's the Meta app that does most of the decisions for you, so you don't have a lot of customization in terms of how big the screens are. Unless you're working alone, then you can have multiple screens with different sizes. But in these meetings, they pick the presets basically, and they usually work very well. It's different in other apps where you can make the screen very small or very big, and if it's too small, then it might be an issue, but then you can also adjust it if someone has difficulty seeing things.
If you adjust it, does it adjust for everyone, or can you like zoom in for yourself privately?
Well, it depends on if you're sharing or not. If you're sharing, then you're sharing the screen that you want to share. So if you have multiple screens in that one app, and you can share whatever screen you want to share, and then they also see the same size.
Your concept of having a short talk and lots of Q&A does work out.
Yeah.
Questions keep popping in.
And they keep coming in too.
Good.
Clearly very interesting.
Yeah. Were there any concerns amongst your colleagues about the use of VR, or was everyone excited about the change?
I would say it was more curiosity. Didn't really hear any concerns. It's more on the compliance side that we can't really, we use it for these meetings, but you can't really process real data in it because there are options to put these things in mobile device management systems and stuff like that, but then it gets quite expensive, and we didn't want to spend that amount of money initially, so we have just told everyone, use it for meetings, use it for gaming if you want, but don't upload any customer data in these headsets, and they don't record when you're using it, at least. So that's yeah. Well, it's Facebook, so yeah, it's definitely a valid point, I would say. Yeah.
What is the advantage of having a VR setup if you need to maintain a regular setup anyways? So like, you're able to switch to a regular conference if someone is fatigued?
Well, we have both virtual options, like regular Zoom calls, Teams calls, whatever, and these VR headsets. So we just, if we're working remotely, we pick whatever we feel is best for the task, or if we're not in the mood to work in VR, we just don't do it. And we still have that physical office in Munich, which is just a small room now, and that is more if we want to meet customers, or sometimes it's also still great to meet in person if you have the opportunity. So it's not replacing it, it's an addition.
I cannot read the last question. It's cut off.
Oh.
Do you? You can on your device.
Seems like an Android issue.
Yeah.
Does it work well if some people are in the same location?
Not so much. So because you hear it from the headset and you hear them
The
talking
hybrid
in
thing
real.
is a catastrophe in any setting.
Yeah. So that's an issue here as well. So it works best if you're all at least in another room or far enough from
another country.
Well, that works as well, but yeah.
I have one last question that just came to my mind. Actually, no, I'm going to pretend someone asked us because, oh, wait, no, another question came in. Can you invite an AI note taker?
Not to this app. It might work in the Microsoft solution, because you can just invite anyone. But I don't know if there's specific AI note takers that are compatible with these VR apps. But there's like Microsoft is leaning more towards merging regular Teams calls and this kind of stuff, which is not perfect yet, but they're working towards it at least. So maybe there's an option there, but we haven't tested it yet.
And, all right, one more question that is totally submitted by someone anonymously on the app right now. So during COVID, we all worked from home, and anybody who says that they never went to the bathroom while they were on a call is lying. Is that
never did.
possible in VR?
I might have left the call and joined afterwards, but I wasn't in the bathroom during a call.
You mute yourself and then you go. It's a thing. Everybody does it. Everybody says they don't is a liar. Can you do it in VR?
You can. You can. You should maybe mute yourself before. But it's also, if you like the augmented reality part where you see your surroundings, the resolution of that part is actually not that great. So it's possible that you can see where you're walking and not falling, but it's not like you keep your headset on and it almost looks real. So the resolution is a lot better when you're in these fully immersed scenarios compared to the cameras that are showing the outside.
Do all of your team members keep like an empty room in their apartment just to make sure that they don't bump into anything? Does everybody just have an extra VR room?
I don't think so. I at least don't. No, it's just on my desk at home, and I'm usually sitting when I use it, or I have a desk that I can move up and maybe stand, but I don't move because then the motion sickness can become an issue.
Did anything else come in?
No.
No.
Not yet.
No? I think we're through.
Well, somebody posted your question.
Right, the question that someone else asked.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You clearly garnered some interest here. What a fun concept. I'm one of those people that get terribly motion sick. Horrible.
Then it's maybe not the right solution
but
for
I
you.
do like being at the office too.
Me too, but as I said, it's an extension. It's not a replacement for things. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Big round of applause for this cool concept.
Thank you.
All right, we have a 25-minute break until the next talk, which is nice because we kind of skipped the last break. So fuel up on coffee, caffeine. Some of you, I won't say who, look like you might need a coffee.
And next up is lightning talks.
And then we'll have the lightning talks. If you are one of the lightning speakers, that's not right. Come on over a little earlier so we can check the setups so we don't lose too much time between the talks to plug in and out laptops and whatever. And we're looking forward to the lightning talks. Thank you so much. Vote, vote, vote.